Welcome to Presenza and face to face today. We're going to go to the US. We're going to talk about what's happening with the Trump administration and mainly what can we do in our current moment. And I'm with Teresa, and we wanted to talk together about how can we organize a revolution or something who change the fundamental of the US political landscape. Welcome, Teresa.
Thank you very much for having me.
So tell us a little bit more before we start about you. What you have been, I saw you active in thousands of protests and organizing May Day for many years.
I'm a child of the 60s and 70s and have been an activist since then as a result of the war in Vietnam, the Black and Latino struggles for liberation. So I got the activist bug back then and have stuck with it. And certainly the Trump period really demands for all of us, to be struggling and organizing and fighting back on many levels. I go back to the night when Trump was elected and remember the telephones and texts that I got, and a very painful night. None of us slept that night. And then January 20th and January 21st happened. And masses of people were out in the streets, not only in the United States, but throughout the world. And it was a demonstration against Trump, especially with regards to his misogyny and his anti-women behavior. So since the election of Trump, many of us concluded that Trump has actually done us a favor and has woken up huge numbers of people. And so I think the potential for fighting back and carrying out fundamental change in the United States, which is long overdue, has been accelerated by the election of this horrible, misogynist, racist, anti-immigrant
and now with the climate
change,
environment. I mean, you go against privatization. And last week it was about health coverage, reforming Obamacare.
Right. The health care that Trump and the Republicans want to pass is going to mean death and devastation for many people. It's one of the many issues that underscore that the Trump administration is totally an administration for the 1%. The major tax cuts that they're giving, the war against migrants, which is something very special to me as a Mexican. The cornerstone of the Trump campaign was very anti-immigrant. And I consider it really a diversion, and it's an attempt to really divide people and make it look as if, the immigrants are stealing jobs, et cetera. And it's very racist. It's really an appeal to white America to get rid of Black and brown people in the United States. And when we came out in January 21st, and there was all these major demonstrations, much of the demonstration was very white, and it was worrisome not to see Black and brown folks there, but the people who came out on January 21st were clearly in solidarity with immigrants, clearly in solidarity with Mexico, and standing in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement, which is so important because 25 Black youth have died since the election of Donald Trump. And we're not talking about it, we're not hearing about it as much as we used to. So it's very important for us to pay attention to the struggle that's happening. And we just finished having May Day here in New York City. We've had an annual May Day since 2006 as a result of the immigrants reviving May Day in the United States. And it wasn't as large as other years because immigrants are terrorized. The ICE agents that Trump has unleashed against the immigrants is very dangerous. The ICE organization of the Border Patrol agencies had never endorsed a president until Donald Trump. And their statement endorsing Donald Trump was ominous, was very racist. It was a call to war against people of color and migrants. And so there's a terror against immigrants. But nonetheless, we had May Day this year at Union Square. During the day, it was a Monday, and we had over 5,000 people. And it was extremely important. Puerto Ricans, Hondurans, Palestinians, white youth, Black youth came out and had a very strong message. And I think it's important to add that the police really went after our demonstration that day. and made it hard for us to march and made it very fearful. And we're actually having a press conference this week to protest because de Blasio pretends that he's such a progressive agent. Well,
no,
he's got to let us know why the NYPD is allowed to do this. So all of this, I think, does lead to the fact that the anger that we all feel and the fear that we all feel about the dangerous attacks coming from the Trump administration do really lay the basis for fundamental change in this country. And we can't be diverted by the war on migrants. We can't be diverted with war against North Korea. None of these things should be allowed to be carried out by the U.S. government, because we have a lot of problems in this country. We need to build the infrastructure. We need health care. We need to deal with the climate change. We need so many things, right? And as Dr. Martin Luther King said, the greatest purveyor of violence is the U.S. government.
Yeah. That's no...
Right, and so we really have a lot on our table. And so I think the first task is to not counting on the Democrats. We have been tied to them too long. The greatest number of deportations was carried out by a Democrat, by
Obama,
President Obama. And Hillary Clinton was, part of the war in Syria, did carry out a coup in Honduras in 2009, which led to forced migration. So it's really time for the people to take control.
I mean, for me, it took me, I was a coordinator of the Coalition to Expand Voting Rights in New York, to pass a bill, to introduce a bill to grant the right to vote for legal residents.
Yes, the important struggle.
We had 39 council members, and it was not introduced to City Hall.
Right.
So because of the so-called, repercussion and so on and so forth, so the Democrats have a lot of responsibility on that story, because really avoiding the discussion, avoiding to put the issue on the table, and finding a way to develop the democracy in the U.S., it's very dangerous. And we know now that it's very dangerous, because now we don't know what's going to happen with the internet. We don't know what's going to happen with the press. It's going to be very complicated for the press to get the job done properly. So,
as I've always said, the Republicans want to cut 2 legs of the working class, and the Democrats want to cut 1. That's how they negotiate it. And we've got to say, no legs should be cut.
Well, exactly. So that's where we were going to put our revolution story.
Right. And the 30s and the 60s are proof that if large numbers of people come out and have demands that we want Social Security, we want the 8-hour day, we want Voting Rights Act through our struggle, and we can win again.
Yeah. And how do you how do you see it? How can I mean, you have the fight on the street and so on and so forth, and how can it be done, or what, with your experience, having done so much work?
Well, I'm very encouraged by young people right now. There is a growing anti-capitalist sentiment in this country. I mean, and it was witnessed even during the elections with the prominence of Bernie Sanders. The Democratic Party might have won the election had they allowed Sanders to be the nominee, and it's sort of an example of how far they're willing not to go. And so I am very encouraged by the level of dissatisfaction by marginalized people here in the United States, and now it's just a question of sort of culminating together. I think that we've seen the scientists march. I don't think I've ever seen
scientists walking on the street of New York
the scientists
City.
have a pretty good job. They're sort of isolated and used to be in an ivory tower, and Trump has changed that. And so if you see scientists marching, then you know something's going on. So I think we can be very encouraged by the period. On the other hand, the government is trying to pass laws that are very much criminalizing protest. And there's many laws in the books that the ACLU has pointed to and showed that these are very dangerous laws. Protesters in the inauguration, January 20th, are facing felony charges, for example. So it really requires
Yeah.
the connections.
Uh-huh.
You know, we can't just be fighting for
Yeah.
migrant rights over
Yeah.
here, healthcare over
Yeah.
here, Black Lives Matter over
Yeah.
here. It's so
Yeah.
important.
That I
for these,
totally agree with. We need to find.
and
yeah.
until we do that,
Yeah.
the revolution is not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's strength in numbers, and there's,
Yeah.
as the young people say, the intersectionality of struggle is so
Exactly.
key,
Yeah.
and that's what we have to do.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. You have
Thank you very much.
anything more to?
I just want people to get involved.
Yeah.
There's so many ways. I don't know which protests are coming up in the current period because we just finished having the major demonstration May 1st. But you know, whether Trump goes to war in Korea or Syria, we've got to get out there. We've got to fight for health care. We've got to stand with Black and brown youth. Yeah. And that's what's going to change things.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
So that was the show for today. It was Face to Face. Thank you for watching, and please keep getting your news to presenza.com. Thank you, and see you soon.